All right, we're back with you at 16 after 6 o'clock on this lovely Tuesday. As promised, we are indeed getting today's show started with our dermatologist, Dr. Andrew Ford. And we're going to discuss this condition called Lichen Striatus. Yeah, I think I missed at least one character when I said it the first time. But good morning, Dr. Ford.
Hi, good morning, Cassandra.
Good.
And hi to Doug.
Yes,
and
yes.
to the viewers.
Bright and crispy good morning to Doug. He's really taking a little time, a little break from me. I have a feeling, but we'll discuss that publicly on his return.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so wishing you a good day today, Douglas Mountbatten. So tell us, what is this condition? And I think I remember us discussing another kind before.
Yes, the word lichen comes up a lot in dermatology, and it just means a stuck-on, usually flat-top, papular type of skin condition. But this lichen striatus is quite an uncommon one, and it's a non-inflammatory linear problem that occurs on the skin. It usually appears in lines, and it likes appearing on limbs as well as other parts of the body, but predominantly on the limbs.
Okay. All right. So how does it really manifest? I know you mentioned it appears in lines, but how does this really look? Is it like a mole? Is it a row of moles? How does it really look?
Well, usually we have some photos to help us with that. Usually it's usually flat-topped or red-colored bumps or papules, and they occur in a linear arrangement. In this shot, you can see someone's forearm, and they're little white papules that are about 1 millimeter in size.
I was thinking I could hardly see anything.
And these occur in groups that form lines, and that's the interesting thing about it. It starts over a number of days or weeks, and then as you go along, you see more and more of these bumps appearing. So it can be quite disturbing for individuals who have the problem.
Okay.
Here we can see the lower limb. This is the leg. Yeah, this is the inner leg of an infant, and you can see the flat top bumps again in groups and in a beautiful line. They're curving.
A beautiful line.
Well, it's artistic. These are called lines of Blaschko. These are lines that are thought to be lines where cells originate from when you're developing as a fetus in the womb.
Okay.
So these are the areas that get involved with the condition.
I see. Okay. Well, why does it happen?
Well,
Because clearly age is
we
not
don't know why it happens. It tends to occur in between 5 and 15 years of age, and 50% of people in that age group get it, but we don't know why it happens. There may be some type of genetic predisposition, and then with an environmental stimulus that occurs that causes it to happen.
So adults won't get this condition?
Yes, adults do get it, but less often than children. It doesn't really happen in even though that was a shot of an infant, it doesn't usually happen in infants very often. It happens mainly in the 5 to 15 age group. Here you can see some of the flat top papules. In the dark skin, it tends to be lighter in color, but in the Caucasian skin, it tends to be very red and very inflammatory, and the bumps can be quite large, and they can also be very crusty and dry on the surface. So you can get lines that occur singly that are approximately 1 centimeter wide, or you can get groups of lines or 2 lines occurring. So you can imagine it coming from all directions.
This is a little more pigmented.
Yes, this one's pigmented from the internet. This is the forearm of a young lady who's in her teens, but you can see in this case the color is darker, but still the grouping of lines which are consists of lichenoid papules, which are these stuck-on papules. And you know, the thing is that it's not dangerous, it just looks kind of different, and people are alarmed because it can last for quite a long time.
It's not contagious?
No, it's not contagious, which is fortunate.
Okay, so it happens around the eyes as well?
Well, they're saying that it happens about 15% of the time on the face, and that facial lichen striatus is underdiagnosed. So you can see just above the eyebrow, again, these group papules in a line just above the eyebrow, and some of them are going down by the nose, but it's just forming and you can hardly see it there. But over time, if you follow the patient, usually it will go down towards the cheeks and a little further down.
You make me want to check.
We all have to check for these things sometimes.
Well, now I'm really getting a sense of how this looks from this photo.
Well, this one shows how dry and the bumps can be. They don't have to be discrete and smooth top. They can be very dry. And sometimes you can even get blisters. If you're unlucky enough, you can get blisters as well.
What are the things that persons affected by this condition shouldn't do with it?
Well, one thing you shouldn't do is panic. The other thing is that once you realize what it is, you have to appreciate that it's going to be there for some time.
Like how long?
Usually for about a year or so. you're going to have those lines. And sometimes you can notice that it happens for 2 or 3 years if you're unlucky, but it always tends to go away. And again, a closer look at the little papules of Lichen Striatus, so you can see them a little more clearly. But you have to appreciate it can occur anywhere on the body. Usually the limbs are the most common, so it can start from the buttock area and go all the way down the lower leg, all the way to the feet, or it can start from the chest and go all the way down an arm, or it can start on the face and go all down the face. It's kind of bizarre like that.
Is this itchy? Is it
itching,
painful?
Itching is the only symptom that people will have, the only significant symptom. But most people that have it have no symptoms whatsoever.
Right.
But for those who have itching, they're the ones that require some treatment. But it's important to explain to the patient that it's something that will be chronic, or at least for a year, and maybe once you take it easy, it will go away. It's just a matter of explaining to people that it's something that will last for a period of time.
Okay, so how do you treat this? How do you
Well,
manage?
treatments are not very successful. Usually time treats it better than intervention. The treatment tends to stop you from itching, but it doesn't make it go away very quickly. But again, if you have itching, you can use antihistamines or you can use a steroid cream. There are anecdotal stories about people having oral steroids and then having it go away. They've tried all sorts of different treatments, photodynamic therapy with light and also chemical on the skin.
What about
but
good
the
old
thing is,
sea bath?
there's well, sea baths will make you feel good once you can swim, but you're going to have this condition for 9 months or so, and it's just a matter of letting it go. When it's finished, it can leave a darkening of the skin, which will last for a few months, or a lightening of the skin. But the types of Lichen Striatus that give the most problems are the thicker versions of them, or the ones with blisters. But the smooth top ones usually do very well.
Okay, but should you avoid, we've talked already about children and people in dry sand at the beach. Are there things you should avoid? Would that become an agitator if you're affected by this?
Well, this is kind of a controversial area because you have a genetic predisposition, and then you need a trigger. So your trigger could be, some people feel it could even be immunizations, it could be getting the flu, in some anecdotal cases getting pregnant. So there are many different, or trauma, so there are different things that can trigger it off, but they're usually individual things that affect a person. So there's no generalized thing that you should avoid, but the important thing is that when you see some bumps coming on the skin and they're forming a line, you should have them evaluated because there are other things that can look like it. In the past, we've talked about another lichen, which was lichen planus.
Right.
And then there was another one called lichen nitidus that we mentioned inside that. So these are all conditions that look very similar. And there's also one that you can get later in life, which is called linear epidermal nevus, which is just a thickening of the skin and the surface. But that one's a lot rougher. But again, it comes in lines. There are a few things in dermatology that tend to occur along these embryonic lines of Blaschko that we mentioned. So it's just a matter of discerning which one it is, but none of them are dangerous. That's the important point.
It does sound complicated though, but it also, what you described just now, a number of those things sound like people could think it's a form of eczema or something that they have.
Yes, definitely.
As well.
When you look at it isolated and just look at the bumps by itself, it can look a lot like eczema.
Some people like to scratch and squeeze. So
scratching and squeezing is
that
never
could
good.
make the situation
That's
more
never
complicated.
good. Never good. So in this case, the itching can be significant, but usually it's so mild that you can just have an antihistamine or put a little cream on it at intervals to control it. But the important thing is to wait it out. Lichen striatus, again, usually occurs in children, so it's important to know it's not contagious, it's not dangerous, but it's something you'll have for a time. You can take some photos of it and admire it while it's there, but it will be gone.
Oh, I like your choice of words. Take some photos and admire it. If you already have any existing skin conditions or other kinds of conditions, can that complicate the situation?
Well, usually not, unless some people that have conditions which suffer what's called the Koebner phenomenon can have problems. Like if you have vitiligo, usually if you have another inflammatory condition occurring on the skin, you can get vitiligo as well within the area. So that's that's a very uncommon complication. But usually lichen striatus is uncomplicated. It just comes for a while and then it's gone.
All right. Well, doesn't sound too bad. And you mentioned again the ages. It doesn't happen too often in infants, but it can happen with
Yes,
them.
it can happen in infants and adults, but they figure that 50% of them occur between 5 and 15 years of age. But 3 also seems to be a popular age for developing lichen striatus. Also, we should say that it occurs mostly in girls more than in guys,
So
maybe
it could
2
be
or 3
hormonal
times.
or something.
Well, in this age group, it's not so significant a contribution hormonal,
Okay.
but it just seems that that's the way
All right.
it pans out.
Do you have any seasonal skin issues? Like this time of year, do you see more cases of a particular thing?
Well, I think the most seasonal skin issue would be like heat rashes and eczema. For heat rashes, it's in the hotter months, like when we had the heat wave a few months ago. But also for some people with eczema, variations in temperature can trigger it off, either extremes in cold and extremes in heat, and we usually have that here. Also in the summer, with the very heated conditions, you can get acne, something called tropical acne. But other than that,
You get the white,
yes.
small, tiny
well,
white.
Well, the tropical acne is usually on the upper body. So instead of getting acne on the face, you get it on the body.
Oh.
So that happens to visitors a lot. They're not accustomed to the humidity and the heat, and that's something that can happen to them. Also, the things that are thought to be caused by viruses. Something we did sometime last year called pityriasis rosea, which I don't think we had pictures of that then, but maybe something we should do sometime later.
I've
so
seen
you can
that.
see. Yes.
Yeah, and that happens on the trunk generally.
Yes, that happens usually in a short pants and a t-shirt distribution. So people don't know you have it, but it can look pretty disturbing. You can have thousands of little bumps or circles on the skin.
Yeah, well, next time maybe we'll talk about that, Dr.
Yes,
Ford.
definitely.
All right, but thank you so much. Today, of course, we talked about lichen striatus, and you heard about it, some raised papules on the skin, and sometimes they can become a little pigmented, but they can also get a little lighter, but it all goes away with time. So just if you see these papules coming up in a line, which is the key thing about this particular condition, you know you need to see your dermatologist so you can be diagnosed, and of course then your course of treatment will be patience and something for the itching. Thank you so very much, Dr. Andrew Ford, for sharing with us this morning.